BPDUGuard is a spanning tree protocol stability feature. Now, how does it provide stability? Well, when enabled on an interface, it is designed to disable that interface if it receives a BPDU. So it's guarding that interface against BPDUs. And what type of BPDUs are we trying to guard ourselves from? All of them. Why? Because the interfaces we enable it on should not be receiving BPDUs at all. For example, this interface is connected to who? An end station. Will that end station ever send BPDUs? No, not unless it's a rogue malicious device that's trying to infect the network with bogus BPDUs. Other than that, we shouldn't receive BPDUs on that interface. So let's turn on BPDUGuard. Therefore, if we do receive BPDUs, they will not cause recalculations to occur in the spanning tree topology, making it unstable. So we're guarding against those rogue BPDUs causing an unstable topology. So this goes hand in hand with our port fast feature. Wherever we have port fast enabled on an interface, let's enable BPDUGuard so if we do receive a rogue BPDU, let's just disable that port. Let's shut it down. Now, it's not being administratively shut down, meaning the shutdown command is not being executed here. No, it's just simply going into the error disabled state. And then it's up to you as an administrator to either have the error disabled recovery feature turned on to automatically recover from this state after a predefined amount of time, or you can manually come out of the error disabled state by typing in the shutdown command for that interface that's error disabled to administratively disable it and then re-enable it with the no shutdown command. Here are the commands to enable BPDUGuard. And notice we can do it globally or on an interface by interface basis. When you type in spanning tree port fast BPDUGuard default in global configuration mode, you're telling the switch to enable BPDUGuard on all of the port fast enabled ports. If the port is not port fast enabled, then BPDUGuard will not be enabled on that port. However, you don't have to have port fast enabled in order to have BPDUGuard turned on. You can go to the interface and use the command spanning tree BPDUGuard enable, and that will enable BPDUGuard directly on that interface without needing port fast configured. So in our example, on ASW1, we would enable BPDUGuard on PC1's interface and PC2's interface. So Fast Ethernet 0/1 and Fast Ethernet 0/2. So if we go to global configuration mode and we type in spanning tree, port fast, BPDUGuard default, we are enabling BPDUGuard on all of the port fast enabled interfaces. So if we type in show spanning tree summary totals, we'll see from this output that port BPDUGuard, here it is, has been enabled globally on the switch. And if we go to the interfaces and we type in show spanning tree interface Fast Ethernet 0/1 detail, we can see from this output that BPDUGuard is enabled by default because it is a port fast enabled port. So spanning tree protocol, or pardon me, BPDUGuard is enabled now on that port. And if we look at the output of 0/2 detail, we can see that here as well. The port is in the port fast mode by default, and BPDUGuard is enabled by default as well. So even though Fast Ethernet 0/1 was enabled as a port fast enabled port using the interface configuration command, the BPDUGuard global configuration command is still applying to this because it is a port fast enabled port. But if we wanted to enable it on an interface by interface basis, you can do so. I want to show you an example of that right now that would cause an error. You would not do this in the real world, but if we go to interface gigabit 0/2, interface gigabit 0/2. What we want to do here is we want to configure it for port fast, or sorry, BPDUGuard. So let's type in spanning tree BPDUGuard enable. So this is enabling it on the interface. And this is a trunk port, folks. That's why you wouldn't do it in the real world, because we expect to receive BPDUs from DSW2 on this interface. But what I want to show you is what happens to the interface when you receive that BPDU. So let's shut off our debugs, because we really didn't want to look at the debugs. I just wanted to see the syslog messages. We look at this output here, you can see that BPDUGuard received a BPDU inbound on gigabit 0/2. So it's disabling the port, and you can see the port's being put in the air disabled state. So how can we see which ports are in the air disabled state if we weren't able to see that syslog message? You can look at the output of show interfaces status. And you can see here that gigabit 0/2 is in the air disabled state. And in this case, it's because of port fast. So how do we get it out of the air disabled state? Well, we can use the air disabled recovery mechanism. If we go into global configuration mode, we can see, or no, in show air disabled recovery, we can see that it's disabled for all of these different features. And the feature we're using right now is BPDUGuard. So it's disabled for BPDUGuard, which means that it will not try to automatically recover from the air disabled state. If we want it to, then we can set a timer, and right now the timer is set to 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes it's going to check to see if those rogue BPDUs are still being received on the interface, and if it is, it stays in the air disabled state. If not, then the port will be re-enabled because those rogue BPDUs no longer exist. And we can configure that in global configuration mode with the air disable recovery command. And what is the cause? In this case, it would be BPDUGuard. So we can set up BPDUGuard to have an automatic recovery mechanism, but we still have to manually remove the offending device or the bad config that is causing the problem. But in our case, what do we want to do? Let's remove the command that's causing the problem, interface gigabit 0/2, and the command we had entered was spanning tree BPDUGuard enable. Let's remove that command, and as you'll see, because the air disabled recovery mechanism hasn't been configured, it's not going to automatically come out of that air disabled state. So show interfaces status still indicates that gigabit 0/2 is air disabled. So to come out of the air disabled state, we type in interface gigabit 0/2 shut down. So shut down the interface at an administrative level, and then bring it back up. No shut. And as you'll see here, we are now out of the air disabled state, and we will be up.